Hey, it's Tyler from Rehab to Fab Designs, and today we're going to be making a Christmas tree box. We are starting with some 1x3 lumber that we picked up at the Home Depot. We are going to cut these to size using a circular saw, and just depends on the size of the box as far as what size, what length you're going to cut them. We make a couple of them that are 24 by 24 inches, and then we make a bigger size with the platform in the bottom that is 28 by 28. For the wood that we are cutting to use on the corners of our box, we are cutting those at a 6-degree angle. And the reason we're doing that is because we're going to make a tapered box. We're not making just a standard box. We're going to make it taper so that it starts out smaller at the bottom and gets larger as it goes up. For our smaller sized box, we used a total of 4 of these 1x3s to go up each side of the box, and then for our larger box we actually used 5 rows, so we have 5 rows of it on each side of the box. Once all the pieces of wood are cut, we're going to sand them down to make sure we don't have any splinters left. I am just using 150 grit sandpaper and a sanding block. I wrap my sandpaper around the sanding block so that it gives me a little something to hold on to. As you can see here, my little 3-year-old is helping me sand. He loves to work with us, and it's good skills to learn. Here I have a stack of them in my hand, cut and sanded and ready, and we are going to start assembling this box. So because this is a tapered box and because we wanted to dress it up a little bit, we do have corners that we added on each corner of the box. So instead of it just being slats on each side, we have slats with a corner added to it, again just to dress it up a little bit. We're going to start by joining our corners. So we have 2 of these boards that we are using to put together. We're going to apply some wood glue. We are using Gorilla Glue here, but you can also use Titebond. You're just going to simply put a little bit of the glue on one of the edges of the board and then rub it in with your finger, and then you are going to attach the other board to it and use a clamp to hold it in place until you can nail it, and then allow it to dry. It did take an extra set of hands for this. Now, granted, I'm sure my husband probably could have done this by himself. He figures out everything if I didn't happen to be there. However, I was, so it was just much easier for me to hold it while he put the clamp in place. Once we had that done, we are going to nail it. We are using a Ryobi airstrike gun and nails that are appropriate to shoot into this size wood. We're going to shoot them in place, and this is just going to give us a little bit of added security to make sure our corner stays intact. Oh, and I should actually specify here, so the boards that we cut to be the sides of the box are actually cut straight. There is no angle on the ends of those. The boards that we used for our corners are the ones that we had one side on cut at an angle. The reason we did this is so it would allow for a taper, so it would be smaller at the bottom than the top. Here you can kind of see we have 2 corners done. So we have those 2 pieces of boards put together for each corner, and then we are starting to add the boards that will make up the sides of this piece by adding the next 2 corners. We start by adding a little bit of glue to the back of the 1x3 that we are placing in the corner. And again, use our Ryobi airstrike to nail it into place. We add 1 board to each side as we go around it, and here you can kind of see the bottom of the shape. For videoing purposes, I'm only going to record the one side as we do it, otherwise this video would be way too long. But you can see here we add glue to each side, nail it into place, go around the frame, and then come up with the next row. This is a walk around view of what our smaller box looks like. This one has 4 rows on each side and measures about 24 by 24 at the top. And of course I had to put in a little cutesy video, so here we are blowing the smoke off of our gun to celebrate our accomplishment. Next up, we're going to add some screws to this piece, again just to give it a little extra security to make sure this stays intact, because it does get pretty heavy, especially when making a larger size. So we are pre-drilling some holes here just to make sure we don't have any issues with our screws going in. We don't want to cause the wood to splinter. Once we have those holes pre-drilled, we come in with the screw and just place it right through the 2 boards. You want to be sure you don't dig it too far into the wood, because it can come through if you don't have the right size screw. Next up, we are going to get ready for this one. We are going to stain it. So I'm putting on some gloves just to protect my hands. I'm using Voodoo Gel Stain from Dixie Belle, which is a water-based stain, and it does come off your hands if you scrub them and use a baby wipe. However, I'm trying to prevent that altogether, so I'm just going to throw on some gloves. I like to apply my stain using a sponge. So here you can see I'm applying a small amount on my sponge and then simply wiping it onto my wood. This color is called Tobacco Road, and it's just a beautiful walnut colored wood stain that I like to use on lots of projects. This wood stain is pretty forgiving, so if you apply it on in kind of a messy direction, as you can see here, I'm using both vertical and horizontal directions with my hand. Not really that big of a deal. I kind of have to do it to make sure I get it in between the crevices where one piece of board meets the other. But as long as I come back over it when I'm done before it's sat too long, I can come across it in one direction, like all the way from left to right, and make sure it's nice and smooth and get off any of those heavy areas, and I'm good to go. So this particular day, I am doing 3 different boxes for 3 different people. And so I am doing a look of a distressed barnwood. I am doing a look with a distressed white finish with gray underneath. And then I'm also going to do a black distressed finish with wood stain underneath. So the first one you saw me do is going to be the one that is going to be white distressed back to brown. This one is obviously going to be the one that's distressed back to gray. For it, I am using Dixie Belle's chalk mineral paint line, and I'm using the color Hurricane Gray. And I'm using a synthetic mini brush from Dixie Belle to apply it. I applied a total of 1 coat of Hurricane Gray on this box and then set it down to let it dry. While it was drying, I came back with my first box, which I had already stained in the Voodoo Gel Stain. Took a little coffee break, and then I'm going to start working on my distressed barnwood look for this. For it, I'm using chalk mineral paint from Dixie Belle in the color called Cotton. It is a bright white color from Dixie Belle, and it pairs perfectly with this Tobacco Road Voodoo Gel Stain. I'm going to be using a dry brush technique for this so I can get that weathered barn look. So I am going to pour my paint out onto a plate so I can use it to dip my paintbrush into. For that, I am using the Big Daddy paintbrush. This is a natural bristle brush, and it is very large, as you can tell in the video, and it is perfect for dry brushing on projects like this. When dry brushing, you simply want to put a small amount of paint on your brush. Basically just dipping the tip of your bristles into the paint. Keep in mind when dry brushing, wherever you place your paintbrush first is going to have the heaviest amount of paint applied. So for that reason, I am starting in the corners where my horizontal board meets my vertical board. That way my paint is heaviest there. So you'll start on one side, for example, the left, and then you're going to drag it straight across all the way to the right. And then you're going to start on the right and drag it straight across back to the left. You're going to do this until the paint is as heavy or as light as you want it, meaning the amount of wood stain that's behind it showing through the white. For the side pieces where my corners are, I start at either the bottom or the top of the board and just drag up and down. That's it. That's how easy it is to get this distressed barnwood look using the right technique and the best tools. I'm going to throw in another view of this that's a little bit closer up, just for anybody who wants to see it a little closer, so you can see the process. Okay, so for this one, the client wants it to be a black distressed back to see wood stain. So obviously the natural wood is very light, so I'm going to stain it first using my Voodoo Gel Stain in Tobacco Road to give it that nice warm brown color. Once that dries, I'll come over it with Caviar, which is chalk mineral paint from Dixie Belle, and then this one will be done. Shout out to creator Dotson for this photo. This is the photo that my client found and liked the finish on, so this is what we're going to give her. Like I said, the wood naturally is too light for this, so I'm going to come in with that warm brown again using Voodoo Gel Stain in Tobacco Road. We're going to stain this, and then we're going to paint over it. Because this stain is water-based, it dries super fast, so this gives me the opportunity to work back and forth between my projects. So I put the stain on it, let it dry, and then I came back to my gray distressed piece. We're going to start dry brushing over it now. In this video, you're going to see that I am using a little cheap brush. This came from Harbor Freight. It is also synthetic, and the reason I'm using it is because I had to leave to go pick up my child, so I had to wash my Big Daddy brush. So I'm using this one, and when I come back, because the other one was still wet, so I'm going to dry brush cotton over top of the Hurricane Gray to get that distressed look once again, and then this piece will be done. Bouncing back and forth between projects like I usually do. We're going to let that one dry, and I'm going to come back to my black distressed piece. So I have chalk mineral paint in Caviar, which is a black color from Dixie Belle, and my Big Daddy brush again. Now that it's dry, we're going to use it to dry brush right over top of the stain. As you can see here, we have a black look coming together with that pretty wood stain showing up behind it, and this is going to give us that look from the inspiration piece. Be honest, guys, who thought it would be this easy to create a weathered barnwood look? Probably not many people. Super easy, right tools, right know-how, and you can create this look too. Here I have several photos of the pieces that are finished. I have one from my client where she has her tree, and look how pretty it is. Here's my tree that I did in the white distress look. Hope you guys love this tutorial. Be sure and subscribe to the Rehab to Fab Designs and Dixie Belle YouTube channels so you can follow along for all of our projects. Make sure you turn on notifications, and as always, thanks for watching.